Yeah, let's jump into this first story, man. This is crazy stuff. We got this from Timcast.com. Breaking. Shelter in place issued in Tucson, Arizona following hazardous material leak on I-10. Civilians within a 1-mile radius have been ordered to evacuate. The stretch of road has reportedly been closed in both directions at milepost 272. Civilians within a 1-mile radius have been ordered to evacuate. The Arizona Department of Transportation has not issued an estimated time for I-10's reopening as of this report's publication. We have this video from Roz Alerts. Is that how you say it? Let's see if we can play this. Take a look at this. Let me get the audio going for you guys. There we go. So I don't know what that yellow stuff spraying out of there is, but I certainly wouldn't want to be anywhere near it. So there it is. I mean, simply put, they say Tucson's National Weather Service cautioned drivers of dense blowing dust prior to the truck's overturning. Motorists traveling along I-10 should be prepared for rapidly reduced visibility below a mile to blowing dust. Images and video from the incident show what appears to be yellow and red smoke emitting from the overturned truck, which was reportedly carrying nitric acid, according to Pima County's Office of Emergency Management and Tucson Fire. This seems like it may just be an accident. And accidents happen. So my question for you guys, I'm wondering, is it because of what's happening in Ohio, we are now laser focused on things like this that we probably shouldn't be that worried about? Or, I mean, or is there another reason we typically, I'll put it this way. We usually don't hear big news about 1-mile evacuation orders and shelter in place orders. I mean, I feel like that'd be big news no matter what, whenever it would happen. But maybe we just don't care, so it never makes Twitter, it never makes the news.
I think you're probably right that it's people kind of focusing on this stuff because of the situation in Ohio. I think that Ohio is dramatic. It's clearly something that the EPA and transportation TSA or not the
Buttigieg.
Yeah,
National
Buttigieg.
Transportation and Safety Board.
Department of Buttigieg.
And TSB or whatever, they should be paying attention to that. I think that this situation in Tucson is likely just an accident, unfortunately.
But we don't hear stories like this. I mean, I kind of feel like if there was it's a 1-mile radius evacuation, I feel like if that were to happen at any other time, we'd be talking about it.
I think the only reason that
really?
I do that, yeah. I think so, personally.
I feel like it's hard to go down the rabbit hole. Not hard to not go down the rabbit hole. It's, do we believe in coincidences? Maybe things like this happen all the time, but it seems a little suspiciously close to it. I mean, you can't help but wonder. And then it also seems concerning because we mentioned Mayor Pete, who had that big press conference, but failed to mention what I've seen people are talking about as the worst man-made disaster to ever happen on American soil.
Is what's happening now in Ohio?
In Ohio, yeah.
And we're like 2 hours away from there.
We are not very far from that at all.
That's creepy.
Definitely in that radius.
Tucker Carlson suggested we're under attack.
Well, when's the last time Tucker Carlson didn't say we were under attack?
I mean, but you look at so for one thing, I think it's fair to say it's a fact that the power grid's being attacked. We've got numerous reports of extremists, I guess, whether you believe it or not, but numerous reports of some kind of extremists shooting at power substations and knocking electricity out. So like that's happening.
Yep.
But then you've got, I mean, I don't know how you look. You've got the toxic chemical spill. You've got the balloons in our air, the objects floating in our airspace, interfering with civilian commercial airlines. And I don't know. I can't help but feel like our infrastructure is being attacked. You've got food shortages in certain areas, eggs specifically. But then you look at the culling of chickens. And this is the messaging we got when we talked about it. People were like, "You keep blaming Joe Biden for the cost of eggs, but you're not telling people about the avian flu that's sweeping through the chicken populations." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, like in New Zealand and South Africa where they're culling chickens too. Why are they culling chickens? Different reasons. For some reason, everybody's culling chickens in different countries. Maybe just a big coincidence." Or I don't know, maybe there's something else going on.
Mike DeWine, the governor of Ohio, did this press conference today where he said that the train that was passing through, the state authorities weren't notified of what it was carrying because it wasn't considered a high hazardous material train. And that means like that there weren't enough chemicals on it for it to be considered dangerous from the explanation the governor gave. And that makes me think that this must happen more often than we realize. And this one just kind of blew up on social media. I mean, if you saw the videos of the trains on fire, there was no way you could look away. And then on top of that, they followed up with a controlled burn that looked like essentially Chernobyl. I mean, that's what people are calling
Mushroom
this.
Club.
Right.
Have you guys ever seen Aaron Brockovich?
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff happens,
Mm-hmm.
What was it? What was that story? Like they were polluting the groundwater and then people were drinking chromium or something?
Yeah.
Hexavalent chromium or something like that? It was killing them all? Yeah.
So
But-
is it that it doesn't? Is it that we're noticing that it happened in Ohio and then it happened in South Carolina and then it happened in Houston and now
It
it's happening
didn't happen in
Arizona?
South Carolina, and I don't believe it happened in Houston, but I don't know. You were reading something earlier. So what happens is you get a train that derails in Ohio and a mushroom cloud and a controlled burn. Animals are dying. And then the next time a train derails, everyone's like, it's happening again. But it's like, yo, trains derail like all the time.
Yeah,
Like 112 or 150 per month.
Yeah, it's over 1,000 per
with
year.
With the number of train derailments that apparently happen all the time. This one, or at least the one in Ohio, seems a little bit aggressive because, again, the mushroom cloud you could see from space. So something there seems a little bit different. Plus, we were looking at the report earlier that said there may have been more poisonous chemicals in that than we originally thought.
Somebody's lying.
Somebody is lying. I don't know who it is, but somebody is lying.
And Pete Buttigieg today said we've done, the majority of testings, and I think it's like 200 and however many of 400 homes, and there's been no detection. There's been no detection of what chemicals? Like, what are you telling us? He's saying that everything's okay 10 days after the fact, right? Shouldn't he have been there by now? Shouldn't we have heard more about this?
I don't believe a word he says,
No,
and
how
I don't
can
think that he
you?
has any. It doesn't matter what he says because I don't. Even if I believed what he says, I would be. I think that even if he's telling the truth or he believes he's telling the truth, I don't think that they have accurate information. I don't think that they have the. That's really, I guess, what it boils down to. I don't think that they have accurate information to give to people. I think that they're spitballing and guessing.
Err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
I remember I was in downtown Chicago a couple decades ago riding my bike, and then I saw smoke coming out of like the 10th floor of a building, and I see people walking up to the building, and they're like going like this, and they're looking at it. And you know what I did? I went the other way. I'm like, yo, if there's some kind of leak or who knows what's going on, why are you walking towards it? Well, I want to see you or something like that. What is it? What is it called? Rubbernecking.
Yeah.
When you're on the highway?
Sticking your neck out and trying to go look at something. And man, it's kind of crazy because I've just always known that lesson. I guess my dad taught me that. He was a firefighter. It's like you see smoke, you get away from it.
Yeah.
But regular people, they go towards it.
And you think that that was it was really dramatic, the burn in Ohio. It's not like, everyone here agrees that it looked something like a mushroom cloud or like an actual volcano erupting. Like, go the other way. And anyone
Leave.
anyone that can get out of there, it's probably a good idea to leave. I can't imagine that.
But
But what if
we-
you
we-
can't go anywhere?
Well, that's a different story. I mean,
So here's the question. Here's the question I got. You can't ignore it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, what's going on in Arizona? People are posting videos of it. Maybe this stuff happens way more than people realize. It is really, really bad, but nobody knows or cares, right? So it's kind of like there's that experiment they did where they took a guy and they put him in a room and they said, we're going to have you be part of a study. Just fill out this paperwork. While he's filling out the paperwork, they blow smoke under the door. The dude then gets up and goes to the door and feels, see if it's hot, and then yells, hey, there's smoke in here. And then he goes and opens and calls some people in. They then do another trial. Same thing. They tell some people, you're going to be in an experiment. Come in this room and fill out this paperwork. They put 3 people in the room, have them all sit down and start filling out paperwork, blow smoke under the door. And you know what the people do then? See the smoke, look at everybody else, look at the smoke, look at everybody else, go back to filling out their paperwork.
That bystander effect is really
Yep.
strong.
Hey, if nobody's out, I'm not going to. And then there was another really funny experiment. I can't remember what show this was. They have people go into like a doctor's office, and then they're sitting down, and then one by one, people come in and sit down, and then a bell rings. And every time it does, all of the actors stand up, and then the bell rings and they sit down. And the person who's like not in on it is confused. It's like, what's going on? Then eventually joins in and starts doing the same standing up and sitting down. It's like, why would you do that? It's the craziest thing. People do not think independently, and that's dangerous. So here's what I'm saying with this Arizona stuff. I bet this stuff happens all the time, and they never have to report on it because nobody cares. But now, because of Ohio, somebody sees an orange gas coming out, and they post it on Twitter.
Yep.
Everybody posts it. Then they're forced to say, okay, evacuate, when you should have evacuated in the first place, but they didn't want to say anything because it would freak people out and make them look bad.
yeah.
I mean, do we think that there's maybe a hyperfixation on these events that happen afterwards because they want to lessen the attention that's happening on Ohio? Well, it happens
It
in
increases
Ohio,
the attention. Like this,
Yeah, I mean,
like here we are, second night, starting a show off talking about toxic chemical spills because of this. And people are scared now that the derailment in South Carolina and Houston were toxic chemical spills, but as far as I can tell, they weren't. I think there was like something with Houston where they're like concerned about a potential leak, but there's no real, there's no like smoke going anywhere or anything like that. Whereas with Ohio, there's a gigantic black cloud filling
Yeah.
the sky and animals are dying and stuff like that. So I'm just saying, the government probably wouldn't warn you if they don't have to warn you. That means, for all you know, you could go outside and be walking into a cloud of radioactive garbage and they're like, just don't say anything, otherwise we'll look bad. You can trust the government to do that, I guess.
You can absolutely trust the government to try and hide things.
And then
Absolutely.
a number of train derailments or train collisions happen in extremely rural areas, right? Where it's easy to say it didn't happen. I mean, one of the big things with all of this is social media, right? People filmed these things happening. They definitely filmed the fire. They definitely filmed the explosion. It makes people more aware of keeping an eye out for this. But if you're in the middle of a cornfield and your train topples over, even if it doesn't have chemicals on it, you know, really it's up to the companies involved, Amtrak, in this case, Norfolk Southern, to say something. And why would they if they don't need to?
We got a super chat from CA2CA Outdoors that says, Tim, per the NFPA, there were 433,500 hazardous material incidents last year. I think it's laser focus on an incident. It's on a huge scale. Yeah, but here's the thing about hazardous material incidents. That could mean like someone in an airport spilled a bottle of acetone. And then it's like, we got an acetone spill. Like, all right, we got to get this cleaned up. Fill out the paperwork, and there's like a puddle on the ground, but you can't drive through it. You can't put equipment through it, so they got to get it cleaned somehow. Things like that, where it's like nobody's going to die because someone spilled a gallon of acetone. It's going to suck.
If someone vomits on a plane, they consider that a hazmat.
Right.
Because it's,
biohazard.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Are all these events going into the same file folder at the office? You know,
Yeah.
mushroom cloud that you could see from space. Somebody threw up on an airplane.
And somebody mentioned too in the chat that nitric acid will basically put you out if you breathe it in. So don't get anywhere near that stuff. And there are people driving through this cloud. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.